Imam Muhammad used that term in 1976. He says that the capitalists should gather all the capital that is to get rich to help the community. And that I have found that Brother Secretary Ismail Shamsuddin is not one coming with his hands out looking for something that some of our business people do, or looking for opportunity to get something from our markets. But he is in fact is one who wants to contribute. And he has said to me, and I know it's his aspiration, is to see this community to be a major force in reshaping America. And I've had the opportunity to be with him when we met the Prime Minister, President of Turkey, and I have to share this with you to tell you the kind of person he was. We were invited by the President of Turkey to a gathering. And so I asked, as a person who had been trained in our diplomatic corps, what would be the setting that we will be in? And I was told by the Chief of Staff of the Secretary, the President of Turkey, that we will be in a group setting. I said, look, I don't have time to be in a group setting. I have 2,000 people to meet in London, so I'm not going to be in a group setting. If I'm going to have a close-up meeting with, I called Secretary Ismail. He said, no, we don't go to those kinds of things. And so the next day we got a call. Come to meet the First Lady of Turkey in an intimate setting with probably no more people in the room than us. And so with that words, taking his advice, you too working in your place, we have to respect the history, we have to respect the traditions of leaders who have gone on before us and are here today, knowing more than we do, not on our ego trip, not on our psychological stuff, not as our quest for power, but I found him to be an innocent, honorable person, and I've studied leadership in this country, in particular reference to this community, from the beginning of the community to the present. Secretary Ismail Shamsuddin and his associates.
Assalamu alaikum. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, I'd like to thank Imam Warithudeen Mohammed II and his wife, Sister Robin, for the wonderful work that they have done to bring this conference or this convention at the stage that it is in at this present time. So we really want to thank them. Because it takes hard work to bring about a convention and the success of being successful in terms of doing the things that has been done in terms of working together on this convention. So, Imam Alfred Muhammad, thank you for those remarks. But I want to talk, what is this chat session about? Why are we here? Why are we here? We're here because Imam Warithudeen Mohammed set up mosques, and he had it going for a while, and he did two things. One, he decided that after a period of time, Imam Warithudeen Mohammed II was the secretary of mosques. But in the wisdom of Warithudeen Mohammed, what he did is he switched it. He took himself out of the presidency and put his son at that level.
That's right.
The reason for that was an indication for us today, for the leadership, knowing the fact is that at some point things would go on and on. So he said, before I make a decision, I will make it in advance.
Right.
So these are things that we should be careful and have an understanding about in terms of dealing with. So the leadership for Mosque is with Warithudeen Mohammed II.
That's right.
We should not look because Warithudeen Mohammed himself appointed Imam Warithudeen Mohammed to be the president of this corporation. He didn't just choose himself.
That's right.
Mosque is not an organization.
Right.
Mosque is an institution.
That's right.
So we were established and we worked hard doing the Nation of Islam, and that was a foundation. And that foundation developed into where we are today, where we are actually understanding our relationship in terms of doing the things and being respected here in America. The Honorable Imam Warithudeen Mohammed picked up the flag And the reason why he did that is because he can have the vision showing that 9/11 would take place. God knows what would have happened if the building would have fell and he didn't have us on the right path or the sooner path of Islam. We probably wouldn't even be here today.
That's right.
So, we want to talk about this convention. How do we, and this is what the chat is about, now let the Imam speak for himself, but how do we improve the convention going forward for 2020? And we need your input. We want the youth. As a matter of fact, where's my grandson? He should be down here. We want the youth. We want to have an input. How do we improve the convention? How do we come together? You know, everybody want to stand on the sideline and criticize.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, what has been your responsibility? What have you done to make this successful? Did you register? Did you participate in the day-to-day activities in terms of the cultural night and the banquet and public address? It takes finance. And everybody knows that I'm about finance.
That's
so
right.
Be prepared tomorrow or Sunday because I'm coming after you. So this chat is about the convention. This chat is about how do we work together. Don't leave it to Imam Warithudeen Mohammed and his wife, because they're doing this for 10 years with no help.
Right.
That's right.
That's right.
No help.
That's right.
All of that you see on the front page of the website. Sister she probably working 20 hours a day and getting 4 hours sleep.
That's right.
Okay? I mean, we called up, and I'll finish for a minute, but I have to set the tone here. I called up the other day and said, you know, we want to put in one of these tabs how we can raise money from the business community before we can hang up the phone, and we looked on the website, it was already there. So it's there. So we'll talk a little bit about that on Sunday. But be prepared to be committed.
Right.
That's right.
Sacrifice and commitment and dedication. Otherwise, why are we here?
That's right. That's right.
Stay at home.
There you go. That's it.
But if we are going to be a part of this community, and listen, I have to say this, you know, even during the leadership for the last 50, 60 years that I've been engaged, I didn't always agree. There were certain things that I said, oh my goodness, you know, what my so-called understanding about administrative work and so forth, and I didn't go along with it. But once the die was cast that this is the way we were going, I fell in line.
That's right.
And that shows leadership, and that's why I'm still here today, is because I know protocol.
That's right.
What about you and us? What about us? So, Brother Imam, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this forum. You know, this is a wonderful thing, brother. This is great.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And for you to even select me, I mean, it's like out of nowhere. You know, I got my other son here too. As a matter of fact, his father
That's right.
was responsible for me being here.
That's right.
And wasn't for his father, I wouldn't be here. And he wouldn't be here.
That's right.
So we're grateful. He has to sit here and be a part of this forum. So, Brother Imam, if you want to have a little introduction, but I want these to participate. This is my nephew, but he's a son too. He's a son. You know what happens when the father's not here? The uncle automatically take over the leadership. Right. So he become the daddy.
That's right.
So I'm your uncle, brother.
All folks, man.
Yeah, I couldn't be more pleased with the outcome of things, because as you know, anybody that has felt like the whole weight and burden of responsibility is on your shoulders, and there's nowhere to run, turn, or hide, that this is, you know, it was, I didn't have an option. I think I've said that to someone one time. They said, oh yeah, you had a choice, you had a choice. No, you don't understand. When you come from an environment where you don't turn your back on responsibility, especially if you see it as a religious obligation, you know, before my Lord, that I didn't come up in a community or an environment where we were individuals trying to make our way in the world. You know, we were God-fearing and God-serving people. I come from a family and a community that were trying their best to do the work that they felt that wasn't being done for the sake of all people, for humanity. Even during the Nation of Islam time, my father wasn't just working for the Nation of Islam. Honorable Elijah Muhammad, no matter what he said, he wasn't just working for the Nation of Islam. He was trying to work on what he believed was pleasing to his Lord and would be him as a servant of God, his fulfillment of his God-given responsibility to humanity, and as always, charity always starts at home. So his focus, I believe, being the spirit that he was where it was because of where God placed him. But if he had been born a different time of a different nationality, a different race, he still would have been the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
That's right.
And so first and foremost, he was a servant of God. And first and foremost, that's what Allah expects for us. He didn't create any of us for any other purpose except to serve him. And believers don't have a problem with that. And when you tell your children that, that's the first instruction you give them as little babies and children. They grow up like me. Well, they don't have a problem with that. I knew my place. I've always known my place. And I always knew who my judge and who my sole authority was. And that's Almighty God, Allah, even in the house of my parents. So this is what this community is about. And, you know, how they say sometimes you preach it to the choir. I'm well aware of that. And I want to commend the good, strong believers, because no other religion, I believe, there's no other faith on the face of earth that can lead you to the proper worship of our Creator, Almighty God, Allah, better than our Deen of Islam, our religion, the religion that was brought to us first by the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Yeah, we have the best religion, we have the best guidance, we have the best direction. And as people, we were put in the worst position to benefit from that creation, from our own souls, from the creation of our own soul. We were set back so far, but the power of the human soul, the human spirit that Allah created, we're a witness, an example that it can overcome anything that the Satan is weak. Anything that the Satan, no matter how ancient and wise he may be, could throw at God's creation, that God's creation always bounces back, because God is always with us to help us and to guide us. So we should be happy. But with the nature that God has given us, we should also carry a great burden with our happiness. That a human being is never satisfied. Like the meeting we just left, Zamir said that a Muslim can't go to bed knowing his neighbor's hungry. So a Muslim is never satisfied knowing that things just ain't right. Everything ain't right. You know, work ain't done. So this is not time for us to slow down. It's time for us to speed up. And I knew my father, knew him well, as a man, as a human being, as our leader, that he never slowed down. You know, your body tell you one thing, your age tell you another thing, but his spirit, I think he would have. I think he probably did. I don't think he passed. I think he came out of that physical body and he's somewhere speeding around fast. He everywhere. He everywhere right now. And he said that. He said that I'm going to live in you.
That's right.
And so Allah gave him his desire. Allah blessed him with what he wanted. He wanted more mobility. He said, what kind of God, after giving me all he's given me, all his appetite he's given me, I jumped. But he said, Allah's giving me this, that, and the other. And along came with that appetite, bigger appetite. And then just tell me this is it. So he know there's a lifestyle after that. He said, I know there's a God, because God would not be a God of justice if he would say, okay, now you dead. You know, so we're believers. We're believers in the hereafter. We're people of faith. And we love our Imam because of the example he set and his abilities that God blessed him with. Nothing more than abilities that God put in all of us, and just like the messengers and in the book, in the Quran, and in the Bible, that they are examples of an evolutionary process of the human soul, that what we saw in them is also in us. So the abilities and the achievements that we saw happen in Imam's life, it's our job to feed that and to nurture that, to encourage that, so we can have more men, strong men of faith and of knowledge and of wisdom produced from our loins, you know, descendants of slaves in this country, that our children and ourselves, we have the potential to receive the help and the guidance from Allah just as Imam did. And I believe if Imam was here to tell you that, he said, if you did what he did, I don't know if he said these exact words, but he acknowledged that he put in work, that he prayed and he asked Allah, and he took matters that he felt were serious matters that needed attention, and he had the sensitivity. And you know, he acknowledged some God-given things, traits that he picked up from his family, maybe from his culture, and maybe from just maybe born with it, a sensitive soul. I remember he mentioned he had a sensitive soul. We all have that sensitive soul, but the shaitan works against it. If we nurture the best of our qualities and fear Allah, and don't put anything before what we think our obligation is in service to Allah. Allah don't need us, but we need to serve Allah through serving humanity. So you can't serve humanity if you don't trust or love your brother, and if you're not willing to sacrifice. And that's where we lack in progress, because we see other groups that have that ability to see duty first.
That's right.
Ishmael was stressing to us to see duty and responsibility first before we see self-interest. And we are more importantly a spiritual group, spiritual beings before we're physical beings. And before we're individuals, we are a collective group. So that makes sense. That makes perfect sense for us to be willing to sacrifice, and that's how you gain the most. I don't know how to really explain it, but I was taught and preached to Imam Muhammad. If you find me a young boy, church boy, grew up in the church, and maybe that's the only social activity they had was a church. And I believe in the early days in the South, that's how it was. There wasn't no club down the street, a bowling alley, disco, or whatever. You know, if you was going to a social gathering, you was going to church.
That's right.
And put that guy up against me in my life, and I tell you, I bet I've doubled him in sermons that I've attended and that I've listened to, and moral and spiritual teachings that I have witnessed and been a part of. My father used to sit and teach from sun up to sundown.
That's right.
Where you think I was?
Right.
I don't remember lunch, breakfast, or dinner. I just remember sitting for a long time and being told, shh. I wasn't playing with no toys or nothing. But this is our life, and this obviously is the most important life, and our collective works are the most important works. I mentioned to a few other people earlier, something just hit my mind that us being one, we should kind of explore that. So I'm one person, so in one body, I know I register whatever's going on with this body from head to toe. I know what it's feeling, I know what it's thinking, I know what it wants, what it don't want. That potential, if we're one body, that also lies in us. That when we learn to trust each other and have the respect and the regards for each other and the love for each other that Allah wants for us, then we start looking like them other groups that we just amazed at. How come they can stick together and black folks can't stick together? How come they can make progress and why can't we make progress? Because those God-given traits were bred. Yeah, we were chattel slavery. That's like an animal. You breed the animal for the best quality to do the work that you wanted to do. And so we come from chattel slavery, which was unique in the history of the world. There's always been slavery going back to the earliest times of communities. If you can find communities, you can probably find slaves, you know, especially the larger communities. But what we experienced, you know, it kind of it ended all, it was a slavery to end all slaveries. Because it was so savage and so inhumane. And the society is just now trying to get to the point, not on a big level, but on a small level, to face those ugly circumstances that they beginning to acknowledge that still affect us today. What other human beings have, you know, they say, well, maybe we can use psychology and tell those people get up and do for yourself. You know, the Nation of Islam tried it, but if he tried, if that's all we needed, then why did it continue? Why didn't that trigger something and, you know, spark and re-engage us into being a people like you had the Mexicans, the Jews, the Spanish, the Chinese, all these people that have a history that something seems to be clocked into their DNA to where they choose theirs first, not second. Our situation is that because we faced the ugliness in so many ways. We've rejected, we've fought against it, but we haven't faced it in the way that Imam Muhammad spent 30 years trying to help us deal with it head on, and also as a psychological issue for our people. That and they say, well, no, I'm not crazy, I don't need no psychological help. Then why you act crazy?
That's
You know, there's a reason. So we can argue with them people that say I ain't crazy and I don't need no help. Just show them, take a record, or write down some of the stuff they do on a daily or weekly or once a year. Some people, they act civilized all year, and then once a year they go do something ignorant and foolish. And like, what you do that for? I have respect for you until you did that, So we are suffering effects that came directly from that history.
That's right.
They did breed something out of us.
That's right.
They didn't breed the human being out of us, but they bred a social nature that's critical to the progress of a human being out of us as a people. Because you really can't miss something you never had. We ain't never had ownership. We've owned things, but we ain't never had ownership and responsibility. We've talked it and we say it now. But we ain't never had ownership and responsibility for what we own, because we don't have a land. We ain't never been slaughtered on a land. We've been slaughtered on a land, but not on our land. And we don't have a history to identify what is ours. So am I saying, well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was right, we need a separate state? That would have been a good healing progress if we had separate states. But guess what? We don't need separate states to have ownership.
Right.
All we need to do is to work together and buy something and take full responsibility for it, and take responsibility for its future by instilling the love and respect for it in our children. So when you see your children turn their head from you talking about African American, you got to let them know that they selling out not just the life that you want for them, but they selling out the future generation.
That's right.
And that's what's happening in droves. They're being mentally and psychologically drawn further and further away from the identity of the African American family. And they say other groups don't need that. Why are they not doing it for other groups? They're not doing that in other groups because they already have it. It's like why am I practicing swimming if I'm swimming this marathon with all these professional swimmers? I'm not gonna just jump. I can't jump in the water. I gotta practice. They don't have to practice, so I'm in the kiddie pool. So they say, man, why you in the kiddie pool, man? Don't nobody get in the kiddie pool. Why you in the kiddie pool? We got to go in the kiddie pool so we can get back what we lost, so that we can gain what we never had.
That's right.
Somebody got to teach you how to, hold your breath. Don't breathe when I'm gonna put your head under water, but don't inhale that water because it's gonna hurt. And I might have to revive you. You see, and that's what we doing. We jumping in headlong, thinking we like everybody else. We not like everybody else.
That's right.
And that's not a negative thing. We're superior, and by my opinion, and I don't mean Elijah Muhammad, there's a lot of stuff, y'all don't want to hear me, because there's a lot of stuff he said that was the truth.
That's right.
But you have to understand,
That's right.
you have to understand where he was coming from. You coming from the mindset of your oppressor, and from the one that designed your enslavement. Honorable Elijah Muhammad was coming from the mindset of truth and logic and reality that we were facing at that time. But he couldn't tell you that. And same thing with Imam. A lot of times he spoke a lot of plain truth to us, and it went right over our heads because you hadn't seen what he's saying. You didn't understand what Allah's message in the Quran the way he understood it. So he would say certain things, and you would completely misinterpret it.
That's right.
That's why before he passed, he was stressing. He said he might not have said everything, but he was stressing to us that it's all about perception.
Right.
Perception. Everybody perceives something different, depending on how they was exposed to it.
You know, they got some. They got some people. You know, what you might hate is good to them. You know, some people don't want a hot pepper in their mouth, but you know, I've tasted so many different kind of hot peppers mixed this kind of, and I enjoy. I look past the heat, and it triggers an enjoyment to me. I like I like different dishes that take different peppers. Sometimes you want a little pepper. Sometimes you want a little mild heat. Sometimes you might want a little bang, a kick, and have a glass of milk or some cream cheese or something to cool it off, just to get that taste. You know, so it's perception. You know, how are you perceiving what's happening? Yes, sir.
Oh yeah,
I can go all day, so I'm gonna turn the mic over to the host.
Assalamu alaikum. We're gonna open up the